What's cooking, everybody? Dave Altizer here with my personal channel, and today we're talking about the DJI Ronin-S using a big camera like a 1DX Mark II, or as you can see here, a 1DC. If you're not familiar, I do have another YouTube channel called Kinotika, K-I-N-O-T-I-K-A. We're going to be doing a lot of extensive reviews using this gimbal on a variety of different cameras and a variety of different settings, but I wanted to put this video out there as soon as possible so that anybody who's buying this gimbal who happens to use a bigger camera like a 1DX or even a C100 or C200, maybe this would help you guys. As you can see here, the camera balances perfectly. There's actually no adjustments needed as far as modifications. The old Zhiyun Crane version 2 was known for having the ability to use a 1DX2, but you had to modify the gimbal, and my friend Brandon Washington did a great video about that. But what's really great about this gimbal is straight out of the box, it actually works. In fact, you still have a little bit of room here for if the camera was a little bit heavier. As you can see here, the gimbal is quite balanced for the most part, pretty much as good as you're going to get. Maybe that could be a little bit better, but it's pretty dang good. This is pretty much as close as you want to get. You want to have pretty much just the ability to adjust it and the camera stay perfectly still. If you're not familiar with how to properly balance a gimbal, check out the tutorial on DJI's website. I'll put a link below in case you just want to go there right away. They have a full instructional video on how to do it. Overall, the gimbal is just really rugged, really well made. It is a little heavy, I guess, but I'm coming from using glide cams and a Movi, and honestly, this is actually much lighter than what I'm used to using with this camera. So the weight, in my opinion, is good, but it is a little chunky, it is a little heavy. This is actually a magnetic EVF kind of thing. It's kind of like a Zacuto Z-Finder, except it collapses and turns into a shade as well. So I put that on here, and it really helps when you're shooting outdoors. You could use a monitor with this kit, but honestly, you want to keep it stripped down, and that's one of the best things about this system is you can really use it like a glide cam. Like I said, you're just hand holding it and moving around and just looking at the camera screen. If you had a monitor, you could mount it by any of the accessories that Ronin is making, but for now, I think if you have a camera with a good enough screen on it, especially if you have a 1DX Mark II that's doing dual pixel autofocus, you can just get a shade like this, and then you can tap your screen for autofocus, and it should work pretty well. I found it working really well for me when I was outside. I did a variety of different shots using this setup on the 1DC. I shot on Canon log, mostly in the Super 35 mode because I am using this kit zoom, the 10 to 18, which is designed for EFS. And if you want to know, I have completely modified the lens. As you can see here, I cut the back of it off, and for your information, you are safe to do that. It's just plastic. You basically just need to get a jigsaw and you can just slice the EFS portion off of the lens. With that being said, let's look at some of the footage that I got using the Ronin-S with the 1DC, and then after that I'm going to go over a tutorial on all of my settings using this big camera, and there's some things that I learned about the tuning on this thing to get that really nice buttery smooth. See how it kind of smooths out when I let go? These are things that you want. You don't want it basically straight out of the box. This is how it works. It just kind of quickly goes back and forth like a robot. You don't want that. You want it to be smooth like butter. And so I'm going to teach you how to set that up after you check out some of the footage. So here you go, check it out and go. So first off, I want to show you the thing that I've decided to do. Instead of using the included gimbal mount, I decided to use an actual Manfrotto plate, which is really great. Oops, this is turned on. I'm going to turn it off. Which is really great because this system actually allows, the Ronin-S actually allows you to use any old Manfrotto plate, which I love. That's always a huge pain in the butt, is dealing with a gimbal that has a completely different mount than what all your tripods use. So obviously my tripod, my monopod, even my shoulder rig has a Manfrotto plate system, quick release system. And this plate should work on a Manfrotto tripod. I'm sure it works great. It works fine. But honestly, nothing's going to be better than using an actual Manfrotto plate. So I decided to use that instead of the gimbal one. I haven't found any real reason not to. This obviously has the markings on it, which if you want that, that's fine. But I don't know. I like having an actual Manfrotto plate on there because I know it'll work with all tripods. Again, as you can see here, I've got this sunshade hood thing. I'll put some links down in the description so you could see this kit. It's pretty cheap. I really recommend getting some sort of sun hood if you're going to be using really any camera without a monitor, because most of these monitors on the back are not bright enough to make it easy to see during bright sunny days. So having just a small little hood like so really helps when you're shooting outdoors. And of course, as you can see here, the Ronin-S is perfectly positioned in such a way that I can still see my monitor and the motor isn't in the way. That's always a big problem with these things, and really cool to see that they've implemented that. Again, like I said, this is pretty heavy, but like it's not much heavier than what I'm already used to with any other system. A glide cam, even a glide cam with like a GH5 would be probably heavier than this because you have to counterbalance it with giant lead weights. So just don't listen to people when they say this is heavy. They have no reference point. If you know what I'm talking about, this is light to me. This is very light. So let me show you the app here. And there's a picture of my son, and looks like Easy Mafia just tweeted, so that's great. So here is the app. I'm going to turn on the Ronin. Before I do that, let me just tell you this. Check this out. If you're wondering how the Ronin-S is charged, there's actually a USB-C port, and you can use your MacBook charger. This is my MacBook Pro 13-inch charger, and it plugs straight in like so. Boom. And yeah, it charges it. I don't know if it actually is going to destroy the Ronin. I looked at the voltage and the output and stuff, and it seemed to be compatible. So apologize for all the ISO noise. I can see it in the shadows here. I'm shooting on the M50, and the low light is not very good on my ISO 4000. All right, so I've turned on the gimbal here, and we're gonna look at my configurations. Okay, so I've got the app connected with the Ronin, and it works great. What's really cool is you can have multiple modes set on the gimbal here, mode 1, mode 2, mode 3. I'm going to show you my mode 1, which is the main mode, and how to set it up to be the most cinematic and the smoothest settings that I've found. So the very first thing that you want to do once you turn this thing on and after you balance it is do an auto tune, and you just push, all you gotta do is just push the auto tune button, and the gimbal will make all sorts of different sounds, and it will tune itself, and it works really nice. I normally would not trust the auto tune system. I typically do it manually, but it worked fine for me here, and it was quick and easy, so I like that. Alright, once your gimbal is auto-tuned, you're ready to go. And let me show you my settings here for mode number 1. So the very first thing that you want to do is make sure that your smooth track is turned on both the pan and tilt. If you're not familiar with what smooth track is, it is that method where you turn it and it follows your movements. So as you can see, as I turn the gimbal, I'm trying to lift it and I'm sitting here. As I turn it, it turns itself. Now, here's the thing with the smooth track that a lot of people don't know. And that's okay, because they're not usually messing around with things. I have my settings here set to speed on low, deadpan on low, and sensitivity on 11 in the pan mode. And then on tilt, I have my speed set to low, my deadpan to low, and sensitivity set to 20. I personally messed around with this. The best way to kind of mess around with it is to go into the custom adjustment mode. Sorry about my exposure here. Let me bring this down a little bit. The best way to experiment with this is to go into the whenever you're going through the settings, is to go to the customize mode and like crank it up all the way to 100 and see how it functions, and then go all the way down to 0 or 1 and then see how it functions there, and then figure out what it's doing. Then that way you understand what the system is actually doing with the settings. Like I said, if you want to just copy my homework, I got low 20 on tilt and low 11 on pan. And then on the roll axis, you want that turned off. Roll is the horizon. So unless you're like wanting to do that, you want to turn it off. Most of the time you want your horizon to be completely level. But if you're doing like an artsy-fartsy shot, you can turn that on and do stuff like that. But here's where it gets kind of fun, is the control settings. So the control settings are the settings for the joystick. So like I said, on default, it's super fast and very robotic. And I was trying to get a shot and it just was not working properly. And by the way, if you pull the trigger down here twice, it actually centers it. So check it out. I hit that twice and it centers it. I hit it 3 times, 1, 2, 3, and it goes to selfie mode. If I want to go back to the front, I hit it twice and it goes back to the front. Anyways, so here's my settings on the first setting. So make sure that you hit the M button here and you go to number 1. Once you're there, the control settings are to adjust mode 1. So in the pan mode, my deadpan is at 74, my max speed is on low, and my smoothing is on 23. And the default settings on this basically were really robotic. And what you'll find here is with the smoothing in particular, if I turn it all the way off, watch what happens. So I'm going to push this and then I'm going to let go. See how it just freezes? Just automatically? Boom. But once you play around with your smoothing settings, so I'm going to turn that up to like 23 is where I had it. Watch what happens. I'm going to pull the trigger and let go, and it has a nice kind of taper down kind of effect. So check this out. I just let go and it kind of smooths it down. So that is much more natural, much more realistic to the way that tripods function, the way the operators would slow your shot down. And so I love that. Your max speed is essentially the speed. So I'll crank it all the way up and you can see how fast it can go. That's really fast. I have it set to low. I don't ever really want to go faster than this for an actual shot. And then deadband is basically the amount of time to when you pull the trigger and when the unit actually initiates. So that is there almost as a safety net. So if you accidentally hit it and you've got your deadband really turned up, it's not going to really do anything until it's held for like, a little bit more milliseconds. So if you have it set to low, it'll just instantly trigger. If you have it set to max, then it's going to wait, about half a second before it initiates. So you can't really see much of a difference here. But yeah, I've got it set to, 70 or whatever. My tilt, it's all the same stuff again. Your smoothing is the kind of effect where it, smooths out. So as you can see here, check out with 0 smoothing. See how it just stops like a robot? Just boom, stops. I'm going to crank it up to, I had it at 20. I go up and it kind of eases in and eases out, which I love. It really feels really natural. See that? So really cool. Again, I want a low speed on the actual speed, and the deadband on this one is up all the way because I feel like I'm gonna accidentally knock this every once in a while, and if I'm going left and right and up and down, having that deadband set to a higher setting kind of makes it just feel and flow a little bit more naturally. So again, my roll is nothing because we're not using that. So so basically, once you set your settings up in the app, what you want to do is, select whatever number you want to use. So in my case, I'm using 1, so I did all these adjustments. I push the trigger button on the front here, right here. I push that 4 times, 1, 2, 3, 4. And you see that little blink that happened there? I'll do it again, 1, 2, 3, 4. That blink basically writes all the settings to number 1. So here's what I did for number 2. I basically, for number 2, if you see here, I'll go here and you'll actually see the app updates. I turned everything for the most part on high, so deadband is low and everything else is basically high except motion. Well, I'll go ahead and turn that up to high on the tilt. Well, no, I don't want tilt to act that crazy. So yeah, so I basically turned the pan and tilt pretty much max, except for the tilt is on medium. And I did that because there are moments where I want to just simply move the camera really fast. Like it's all whacked out, and I want to just quickly change the the positioning of the gimbal. And in the 1 mode, if I literally want to go over here, it's gonna take me 5 or 6 seconds to turn it around or whatever. So what I did is I assigned number 2 to be max speed, so that in those cases where I just simply need to move the thing fast, I'm probably not ever gonna use it this fast unless I'm chasing a car or something. So I like that. I like having the ability to have a smooth option on number 1 and then a fast option on number 2. And I guess you could do something else on 3 too. Like you could maybe enable the pan mode or the horizon on number 3 or something. I don't know. I don't know what to put there. But anyways, those are my settings on the Ronin-S using the Ronin app. There's really nothing else that I did that is custom. Let me show you one more thing here. One of my favorite features is the ability to create moves using the app. So one of the best things about a handheld gimbal like this is the ability to do exactly this, to set it up on the ground in a tripod mode. What's so great about that is, first off, when your arms get tired, you can just set it down. Secondly, if you can place it in a spot where you're going to do a shot, you can actually control it using the app. So check this out. So you go to Create, and you go to Capture. There's a little joystick here, and it's just like my BB-8 iPhone app Droid. I can control everything using the app. I did a shot in the video that was all using this, and man, is that cool. That's really cool when either you're on a jib and the camera is just too far away for you to touch the joystick, or if you're trying to get a shot where you just don't want to accidentally bump the gimbal and have it act all wonky. So you can use the app and completely control everything, which is really great. And the modes are the exact same too. So if I go to mode 2, now it's fast again. So really, really awesome. Definitely one of the most thought through apps and gimbal system that I've ever used. And man, I can't think of really anything else that's wrong with this that needs to be changed. I'm sure with firmware updates, things are gonna get better as far as the overall smoothness of it, but I'm so far really happy with this version 1 of the Ronin-S, and with my goofy 1DC that doesn't have autofocus that I have to manually focus everything on. It works great. So like I said earlier, I am just really happy with this system. I think it's time to upgrade if you use another gimbal. Even if you have a Zhiyun crane and some of the features that I talked about are important to you, you want something that's maybe a little bit more reliable and smoother. I don't know. I haven't really had a ton of experience with the Zhiyun crane, but anyways, overall for the price, this gimbal is kind of phenomenal. Over the next probably 2 years, I see this being the ideal and the main gimbal that people are going to be using. I'm really happy to be one of the first people to get it, to review it. I'm doing a full series of videos using the Ronin-S on my main channel. It's called Kinotika, Kinotika. Check us out. If you haven't subscribed to that channel, please subscribe to that. That's, we just hit 10,000 subscribers there. I just wanted to make something here on this channel that's in depth, that talks about things that I would never put on a, bigger, I would never put all the details that I just did here on Kinotika. It just doesn't fit there. I don't know if there's anybody that's interested in this long form video. If you guys want to see more of these videos where I just kind of share my thoughts and don't really hold anything back and just kind of ramble about different things that I've learned and experimented with and techniques that I've learned over the years, then let me know in the comments section below. At the end of the day, the Ronin-S to me is kind of the natural progression of the glide cam. If you remember back in the day when Devon Supertramp was brand new, the glide cam was kind of known for being the ultimate tool, and it's definitely something that I use for several years as my main stabilization tool. And that glide cam really served me well. I shot a ton of weddings. I went to Africa, Mexico, Guatemala, all over the world with that kit, and it really was an amazing tool because it was something that you could use. It was heavy in the moment, and that was good because that made it smooth. But when I was done with it, I could just set it down. I could just lay it down on the ground. And with the traditional gimbal systems that we've been using now for the last couple of years, like the Movi, it's been kind of a step backwards in a way in terms of convenience. There's a lot of wires that you have to connect. There's an obsessive amount of tuning, and I had to bring my computer with me because I never got the module to use my phone on the Movi. And I love the Movi, and I still think that it has its place, especially on higher end cinema sets. But for people like me who are running and gunning, who are using a camera that is kind of the workhorse camera, that hopefully you have a camera that has some sort of autofocus system, unlike me. By the way, I'm thinking about switching to a Panasonic camera because this has some beautiful integration with the Panasonic cameras. You can change your focus with this focus knob here. And if I had some sort of sun hood like I have here on a GH5 screen, probably the GH5S, to be honest. I really like that camera. It has much better color. You could really just use this with the GH5S, and that's it. There's value to having manual focus. And honestly, this setup here, without even needing gears to follow focus, is kind of revolutionary. I know the Zhiyun crane has a similar setup with a focus knob, but as far as I know, this is the only system that's using Panasonic cameras. I'm really anxious to try that. I actually don't have any cables. DJI didn't send me any. I'm rambling a little bit here. I hope you guys are okay with that. But basically what I'm trying to get at is the practicality and the usability of this gimbal is so high that it's completely changed my opinion on how to shoot. Should you shoot everything on a gimbal? No. Is there a place for a tripod? Absolutely. And that's one of the beautiful things about this setup is I get to use my Manfrotto plate. I can just take it off and pop it on my tripod. I feel like the dual grip gimbal system has its place. It has its place with Reds, REs, things that you have to have manual focus gears and focus knobs, and you want to send a feed back to the director, and you know, you've got an easy rig on to support the weight. I think that's where that belongs. But I really feel like the DJI Ronin-S and this form factor is replacing the Glide Cam and honestly the Movi M5 and the Ronin M for being the everyman's gimbal. If you have to have a monitor, you can have one. You can screw it in with the adapters. I don't know where. I know there's a quarter 20 on here somewhere, but I can't find it. But at the end of the day, this stripped down setup here with just a camera on the gimbal, especially if you have a camera that either can interface with this knob or has dual pixel autofocus, man, you really can't get better than that. I am really excited to use the Ronin-S more, to do more tests, and like I said, make sure to follow us on Kinotika. We're going to be doing a full extensive review of it in California. We're doing a comparison with the Zhiyun crane as well. And let us know if you want to see anything in particular. But right now, with my 1DC on this thing mounted with the wide angle lens, I really couldn't be happier, because this is really, truly the most portable and usable gimbal system that I've ever used. Once again, I'm Dave Altizer. This is my personal YouTube channel. See you next time.